Microsoft just announced that they're getting a bunch of new deputy CISOs, 13 to be exact, and finally got around to deleting millions of inactive accounts after that little breach last year. Will adding a baker's dozen of new executives help them prevent security breaches in the future? We're also going to be talking about a new flaw in a microchip that is used on countless IoT devices that will leave them vulnerable to remote code execution with a severity score of 9.5 out of 10. How can you figure out if you own any IoT devices with this microchip, and what can you do to protect yourself? Speaking of protecting yourself, Discord is rolling out a groundbreaking new protocol called Dave that ensures end-to-end encryption for audio and video calls, which is of course very cool, but unfortunately the text remains unencrypted. And finally, we're just going to be talking a little bit about passwords that never expire and what kind of security risks that poses. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? We're going to be discussing it here on the Daily Decrypt. So Microsoft finally got around to that little bit of tech debt in their security posture after a breach, I don't know, over a year ago, and have officially eliminated 730,000 unused applications and 5.75 million inactive tenants, which is, both of those are very large numbers, especially for a corporation like Microsoft that should probably be automating this process. Which, as I'm reading, I'm not seeing that they have automated it in the future. They've just done this sort of one-time cut. But still, hats off for taking some action and eliminating these accounts. I'm sure that was scary. They've also launched a cybersecurity governance council that will oversee compliance, regulatory requirements, and security architecture, which I believe was announced a while ago. But in addition to that, they've appointed 13, or a baker's dozen, deputy CISOs for areas like Azure, Microsoft 365, AI, and gaming. And these new deputy CISOs will be responsible for ensuring that every product segment adheres to strict security protocols. Apparently, weekly progress reports will go straight to senior leadership, and quarterly updates reach the board of directors, hoping to increase accountability around security. They are trying to put their money where their mouth is, saying that they're a security-first company, even though all of their actions up until this point have proven otherwise. They're trying to reverse that, right? So hats off to them for at least taking some action to try to reverse the negative stereotype that consumers and other companies have about Microsoft surrounding security. There is a new critical security flaw in the Microchip Advanced Software Framework, ASF, that scores a whopping 9.5 out of 10 on the CVSS scale, which indicates that this is a pretty severe risk. The flaw is a stack-based overflow vulnerability in the tiny DHCP server used in ASF. This happens because the software doesn't properly validate input. Bad actors are able to exploit this flaw by sending specially crafted DHCP requests, potentially leading to remote code execution. The reason that we should all care about this is that the ASF is deeply rooted in IoT-centric code, making this vulnerability likely to surface in many IoT devices that you might use, like smart home gadgets, security cameras, and really anything that you get for relatively cheap that connects to Wi-Fi. Like, I have a cat who drinks water out of a Wi-Fi connected fountain that monitors the amount that she drinks and sends me the data because I'm a big nerd. So that I'm going to have to look into and see how I can secure it. And a very common trait about IoT, or the Internet of Things, is the speed in which they're produced, and they stop maintaining them almost immediately afterwards. So as these security bugs are found, they don't really have the development teams to address them, and they don't really push updates too much. So as of right now, there's no fix from the people who are maintaining this infrastructure. I'm sure that there will be some open source fixes product by product that you can implement if you're like really advanced in low level programming. Otherwise, there's not much you can do unless you're more advanced into networking, where you can segment these devices off, create a little VLAN or even a separate switch for your IoT devices. So sure, they can reach out to each other, but that's pretty advanced. So just do your best to make sure that your internal network is secure. And if you're not using the functionality for specific devices, it would be best to just turn off the internet connectivity if you can. Big news for Discord users is that Discord is rolling out a new end-to-end encryption protocol called Dave for its audio and video calls. The Dave protocol ensures that your voice and video calls are encrypted from your device to the person you're speaking with's device. This means that technically Discord can't even listen in to your calls, which is great, but make sure to note that the text you're typing in Discord channels is not end-to-end encrypted and is still subject to Discord's content moderation rules. Encryption is pretty hot right now, especially with the founder and CEO of Telegram under fire. I haven't been following that story too closely, but we're entering into an age where if people create a platform that can be used for shady activities like crime or whatever, they might be on the hook, which is a very scary arena to be entering. But it's unlikely to affect many people, at least for the near future. All you need to know as a Discord user is that your audio and video calls are encrypted and no one can listen in. And finally, just wanted to talk a little bit about passwords that are never set to expire, which is an interesting topic to me because previously password guidance was to reset them every 90 days to avoid reuse or brute force types attacks, credential stuffing, etc. But recently, NIST has recommended against that, instead to set a really secure password and just kind of leave it, as well as not reusing any passwords, right? Use a password manager, have that generate a super long random password that can't be cracked, and then just set it and forget it. Do that for every account and you should be good to go. But as tech continues to advance, that means that cracking these really complex passwords can get faster. Additionally, if users are not using a password manager and they set a really complex password and commit it to memory or write it down somewhere, they're more likely to reuse that password because they think it's secure. They want all their accounts to be secure, where reusing passwords is actually worse than insecure passwords, because if someone cracks your insecure password, they can only access that one account. Whereas if someone gets your really secure password that's used on a bunch of accounts, now they have access to all of those accounts, right? So we all agree that long, complex passwords are better. And we understand why NIST stopped recommending changing them to encourage more complexity. But we might be entering into a time where we need both very long, complex passwords and to reset them every 90 days. The only way this is ever going to happen, though, is if they mandate the use of password managers, because resetting them, as we know, simply means adding a digit or changing the last digit or changing the first character of that password, which is not a good move. We need a password generator to generate a completely new random password, not related to the previous password at all, for this tactic to work.
This has been the Daily Decrypt. If you found your key to unlocking the digital domain, show your support with a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It truly helps us stand at the frontier of cyber news. Don't forget to connect on Instagram or catch our episodes on YouTube. Until next time, keep your data safe and your curiosity alive.